All right. It looks like this is actually going to be the last video for the light of the soul, and we will have completed the sutras. So that's interesting. Then we'll be moving on to the next. All right, so let's get started. The 24th. The mind stuff also, reflecting as it does an infinity of mind impressions, becomes the instrument of the self and acts as a unifying agent. So nothing remains for the spiritual man to do in connection with this purified lower self, but to learn to use his instrument, the mind, and through it, the other two bodies are directed, controlled, and utilized. Through the 8 means of yoga, his instrument has been discovered, developed, and mastered, and must now be brought into active use and employed in 3 ways. 1, as a vehicle for the life of the soul. 2, in the service of the hierarchy. And 3, in cooperation with the plan of evolution. Yeah, that's interesting because nowhere does it say that, you're supposed to live out some, business pursuits or, nowhere does it have anything to do with concretized prana in the form of money. But all right, so here in book 1, Sutra 41, we find these words. To him whose vrittis, modifications of the substance of the mind, are entirely controlled, there eventuates a state of identity with and similar to that which is realized. The knower, knowledge, and the field of knowledge become one, just as the crystal takes to itself the colors of that which is reflected in it. This gives us a picture of what happens to the man who has mastered his instrument. He registers in his brain via the mind that which is true and real. He becomes aware of the nature of the ideal and bends every power which he possesses to the work of bringing that ideal into objective manifestation. He sees the vision of the kingdom of God as it will be in the latter days, and all that he has and is, he renders up in order that the vision may be seen by all. He knows the plan, for it is revealed to him in the secret place upon the Mount of God, and he cooperates with it intelligently upon the physical plane. He hears the voice of the silence and obeys its injunction, working steadily at the task of spiritual living in a world consecrated to things material. All this is possible to the man who has stilled the versatile psychic nature and has mastered the kingly science of Raja Yoga. In the hidden literature of the adepts, the following stanzas sum up the state of the man who has achieved, who is master and not servant, conqueror and not slave. The fivefold one. Oh, okay, the fivefold one. So we're talking about all the way up to master level here. I assume they're meaning the lower these 5 here. The fivefold one hath entered into peace, yet walks out our sphere. That which is dense and dark now shineth with a pure with a clear, pure light, and radiance poureth from the 7 sacred lotuses. He lighteneth the world, and irradiateth the nethermost place with fire divine. That which hath hitherto been restless, wild as the ocean, turgid as the stormy sea, lies quiet and still. Limpid the waters of the lower lie, and fit to offer the thirsty ones who groping cry for thirst. That which hath slain and veiled the real for many lengthy aeons is itself slain, and with its death the separated life is ended. The one is seen, the voice is heard, the real is known, the vision is glimpsed, the fire of God leaps upward into a flame. The darkest place receives the light. The dawn appears on earth. The day spring from on high sheds its bright beams in hell itself, and all is light and life. Then before the liberated yogi, a choice is placed. He faces a spiritual problem, and its nature has been conveyed to us in the following fragment of an old esoteric catechism. What dost thou see, O liberated one? Many who suffer, master, who weep and cry for help. What wilt thou do, O man of peace? Return from whence I came. Whence comest thou, pilgrim divine? From the lowest depths of darkness, thence upwards into light. Where goest thou, O traveler upon the upward way? Back to the depths of darkness, away from the light of day. Wherefore the step, O Son of God, to gather those who stumble in the darkness and light their steps upon the path. When is the term of service, O Savior of men? I know not, save that whilst one suffers, I stay behind and serve. All right, let's keep going. 25. The state of isolated unity. Well, see, I was understood isolated unity is at the 3rd initiation, which is here. Maybe that's not the master level. Maybe that's just accessing the spiritual triad that we were talking about up here at the the 5th, right? On the 5-fold. Here, the 5-fold one. Maybe we're talking about now has access to the spiritual triad. Because the state of isolated unity, I think, comes into play at the 3rd initiation. The state of isolated unity, withdrawn into the true nature of the self, is the reward of the man who can discriminate between the mind stuff and the self, or spiritual man. This state of isolated unity must be regarded as the result of the attainment of a particular state of mind rather than a separative reaction. All meditation work, all moments of reflection, all affirmative exercises, all hours of recollection of one's true nature are means employed to detach the mind from the lower reactions and tendencies and build in the habit of a constant realization of one's true divine nature. When this realization is achieved, the need for such exercises ceases and one enters into one's heritage. The isolation referred to is the detachment of the self from the field of knowledge, the involving of the refusal of the self to seek outward going sensuous experience and it's standing firm in the state of spiritual being. The man becomes conscious of himself as the knower and is no longer primarily concerned with the field of knowledge, as in the earlier stages of his unfoldment, neither is he engaged with the knowledge itself, as during the stage of mental development, either as an advanced man or as a disciple. So that's okay. So neither is he during the stage of mental development. All right. So he's not engaged with knowledge itself, even as an advanced man. It's more an advanced man would be looking at the more or less the field of knowledge. But now we're on to the knower. So he can discriminate between all three and identifies himself henceforth neither with the field of knowledge, life in the three worlds, through the medium of his three vehicles and the five senses plus the mind, nor with the knowledge gained, nor the experience undergone. He knows the self, he identifies himself with the true knower, and thus sees things as they are, dissociating himself entirely from the world of sensuous perception. Dissociating himself entirely is dissociating himself entirely is, these are key words here. And it's not something that I can, that can be grasped until we get there. He does this, however, whilst functioning as a human being on Earth. See, he participates in Earth experience. See, to me, the way I'm seeing this, is very subjective, of course, but he participates in Earth service. Now, how can you be dissociated entirely at the same time as participating in Earth service? Now, this is a question that I guess you probably, have for a while, because, we go through the daily routine, we do things get done. Are we associated with them? Are we still focused on above? And yes, but to this level is something that is difficult to grasp. He involves himself in human activities. He walks among men, eating and sleeping, working and living. Yet all the time he is in the world, yet not of it. And of him it can be said, as it was said of the Christ, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. That's a beautiful thing here. He found, in being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself. In this level of consciousness, we're looking potentially at, maybe we do get glimpses of this more or less, or some sense of it. Potentially the kingdom of souls, or, the kingdom heaven on earth, floating through, more or less floating through this while just serving. He is at one with the soul of all, but isolated off, separated from all that concerns the form or material nature. I see. The next three sutras should be read as one, giving as they do a picture of the gradual growth of the spiritual nature in the man who has arrived at the state of discriminating detachment and through utter dispassion knows the meaning of isolated unity. Okay, that does put a different spin on it very quickly there. So that's something to ponder on. Maybe it's not exactly what we're thinking. It's not it's a state of consciousness. All right, so 26, 27, and 28. The mind then tends towards discrimination and increasing illumination as to the true nature of the oneself. Through force of habit, however, the mind will reflect other mental impressions and perceive objects of sensuous perception. These reflections are of the nature of hindrances, and the method of their overcoming is the same. It's interesting because we studied glamour and world problem, and in there was a lot about illusion and Maya. Well, this is where we are getting into the next level of dissipating that in ourselves, essentially. So let's see. The right tendencies and rhythms having been set up, it becomes simply a question of steady perseverance, common sense, and endurance. Unless the utmost vigilance is exerted, the old habits of mind will very easily reassert themselves. And even until the final initiation, the aspirant must watch and pray. The rules which govern victory, the practices which bring success are the same for the advanced expert warrior and initiate as they are for the humblest neophyte. In Book 2, the methods whereby the hindrances and obstacles could be overcome and negated are most carefully given, and from the moment of stepping upon the probationary path until that high moment when the last great initiation has been experienced and the liberated man stands forth in the full light of day, these methods and modes of disciplined living must be adhered to unswervingly. This involves patience, the capacity to go on after failure, to persevere when success seems far away. This was well known to the great initiate Paul and was the cause of his injunction to the disciples he sought to help. Stand therefore, having done all, stand. James gives us the same thought where he says, behold, we count them happy that endure. And it is the going on when the point of exhaustion has been reached, the taking of another step when the strength to do so seems gone, and holding steadily where there seems nothing but defeat ahead, and the determination to endure whatever may be coming. When endurance has been taxed to the limit, which is the hallmark of disciples of every degree. Determination to endure whatever may be coming, when endurance has been taxed to the limit, which is the hallmark of disciples of every degree. To them goes out the clarion call of Paul. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shed with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, from Ephesians 6. The equally clear command of Krishna to Arjuna sounds out also. Having regard to thy duty, deign not to shrink back, for nothing is better for a warrior than a righteous battle. And such a battle has become to thee of its own accord, a very door of heaven will be opened. Happy the warriors who find such a fight as this, therefore arise, determined to do battle, making equal good and ill fortune, gain and loss, victory and defeat, gird thyself for the fight. Right, moving on to the 29th Sutra. The man who develops non-attachment even in his aspiration, after illumination and isolated unity, becomes aware eventually of the shadowing cloud of spiritual knowledge. And this spiritual plane, we could say is the Atmic also, and intuition, and we have the wisdom and intuition, and we become aware of this. And we look forward to it. Okay, it is difficult for the neophyte to be impersonal where his own spiritual unfoldment is concerned. Yet the very earnestness of his aspiration may serve as a hindrance. And one of the first things he has to learn is to go forward along the path, adhering to the rules, following the practices, employing the means, and steadily fulfilling the law, and at the same time to be occupied with the vision and with service and not with himself. It is so easy to be the victim of high desire and so busy with the reactions and emotions of the aspiring lower man that rapidly one is enmeshed afresh in the toils of the versatile psychic nature. Non-attachment to all forms of sensuous perception, the high as well as the low, has to be developed. Many people, when they are transferring from the path of feeling and the devotional heart approach, the mystic line, onto the path of intellectual control, the approach via the head, the occult method, complain that the old moments of joy and bliss experienced in meditation have gone. And that's not funny. It is our experience. The system now followed seems arid, dry, and unsatisfactory. It's much more quiet and serious. Right? It's quite a bit more serious, but we have to sit light in the saddle even still. The system now followed seems arid, dry, and unsatisfactory, but joy and peace are registrations of the emotional nature and in no way affect reality, right? It is immaterial from the standpoint of the soul, whether its reflection, man in incarnation, is happy or not, blissful or sad, content or in trouble. Okay, hold on a second here. It is immaterial from the standpoint of the soul, whether its reflection, man in incarnation, is happy or sad, blissful or sad, is happy or not, blissful or sad, contented or in trouble. Only one thing matters: the attainment of soul contact, the arriving at union, conscious and intelligent with the one. This union may work out in the physical plane consciousness as a sense of peace and joy. It must work out in increased capacity to serve the race and to serve it more efficiently. The feelings of the disciple are of small moment. His understanding and usefulness as a channel for spiritual force are of importance. It should be remembered that on the path, neither our virtues nor our vices count, except in so far as we escape from the pairs of opposites. That alone counts, which impels us forward on the path, which shineth more and more until the day be with us. When a man can detach his eyes from all that concerns the physical, emotional, and mental, and will raise his eyes and direct them away from himself, he will become aware of the overshadowing cloud of spiritual knowledge, or of the rain cloud of knowable things, as it has also been translated. And we see the rain cloud of knowable things come up quite a bit in the blue books and reference to Patanjali. And Patanjali is discussed all throughout the ageless wisdom. And here we have esoterically and symbolically given the indication that there lies before the initiate, advanced as he is, a still further progress, another veil to be penetrated. He has made a great at-one-ment and has unified soul and body. He stands, as regards the three worlds, at a stage called that of isolated unity, but another union becomes possible, that of the soul with the spirit. The master must become the Christ, and to do this, the rain cloud of spiritual knowledge must be reached, used, and penetrated. What lies on the other side of that veil which hides the Father, it is needless for us to consider. In our New Testament, when the Father communicated with the Christ, the voice issued out of a cloud. And we can see the stepping down of this is how it comes down to us and makes its way to the physical plane, brain consciousness. We're building the bridge that can get to the source of these things and still comprehend them, right? That's what this book is essentially about. When this stage is reached, then the hindrances and karma are overcome. The two verses we have just studied have carried the aspirant on from the stage of adept to that of the Christ. And that, I want to say, the stage of adept, when you get to the cloud of knowable things, the rain cloud, you have the intuition. I think this is the plane, the Buddhic permanent atom is where you become adept as well, as far as I understand. Or an arhat, I believe is another word. All that hindered, veiled, or prevented the full expression of the divine life has been overcome. All barriers are down, all obstacles removed. The wheel of rebirth has served its purpose, and the spiritual unit which has entered into form, carrying with it potential powers and latent possibilities, has developed them to their full extent and unfolded the full flower of the soul. The law of cause and effect, as it functions in the three worlds, no longer controls the liberated soul. His individual karma comes to an end, and though he may still be subservient to group karma, planetary or solar, he himself has nothing to work out, nor does he initiate anything which can serve to bind him by the chains of desire to the three worlds. His state is summed up for us in the next sutra. And 31, when through the removal of hindrances and the purification of the sheets, the totality of knowledge becomes available, naught further remains for the man to do. And this is, omniscience. is what it's called, all knowing, essentially. All things. I don't believe that means you know all things in every instant, all at the same time, but all things, all knowledge is there to be known. On demand, I guess. The dual work is accomplished. Those hindrances, which are the result of ignorance, blindness, environment, and activity, have been done away with. The grossness of the sheaths has been corrected, and because of this, through following the means of yoga, all knowledge becomes available. The yogi is now aware of his essential omnipresence, or that his soul is one with all souls and part thereof of the one essential unity. The one all-pervading life, the boundless immutable principle, which is the cause of all manifestation. He is likewise omniscient, for all knowledge is his, and all avenues of knowledge are open to him. He stands free of the field of knowledge, yet can function in it. He can utilize the instrument of knowledge and ascertain all that he seeks to know, but is himself centered in the consciousness of the knower. Neither space nor time can hold him, nor can the material form imprison him, and there comes for him the grand consummation to us by Patanjali in his 3 concluding sutras. Sutra 32, the modifications of the mind stuff, or qualities of matter, through the inherent nature of the 3 gunas, comes to an end, for they have served their purpose. 33, time, which is the sequence of the modifications of the mind, likewise terminates, giving place to the eternal now. And 34, the state of isolated unity becomes possible when the 3 qualities of matter, the 3 gunas or potencies of nature, no longer exercise any hold over the self. The pure spiritual consciousness withdraws into the one. And that's the end of the book. And what a book. It was, I'm just, as you would say it, I'm just following the trail of breadcrumbs, as it's laid out in front of us, right? And I did not expect to be reading this book. But I totally see why it was on the docket for us to do it. And lots of secrets that I found that I think are hidden in this kind of, I don't want to, obviously not secret, but there's a lot of puzzle pieces. It really is. All these books are tying each other together with the other books, is what I'm seeing. And it's building this entire new foundation of knowledge for us. And we're really, at this point, should be beginning to understand what we're looking at here in this chart, and what our next steps are and what we have to do, and
recognizing this path for what it is. So amazing book, commentated with commentary by the master. And what more could you ask for? So incredible. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. The study is not over. This is something that will likely come up again. And we should read, how many times can we read each of these books? I don't know, until we get to where we need to get. Until we're done reading and we get to
to this point. So that's what we're going to do. All right. Well, we'll see you with the next book. Have a good one. Be blessed. Thank you.